This is Twit.
Well, I think, Bob, you've been back at the Pine Board there, and I think, wow, we talked yesterday. You're getting near the end.
Well, there's never an end. There's always stuff we'll be doing with it. However, I can't go any further, and you're going to find out in a minute why. First of all, George, I want to remind you, you do need your chipstick. However, at 50,000 watts, this won't do it. You're going to need what they call the Jesus stick, right? But that's where Chip got this idea. Also, make sure you make things happen make things happen to ground before you go in there. But you know all about that. Well, a year ago, and it's been a little over a year, we started this project. Everybody took to it. Hundreds of you. How do I know that? Call AES, Antique Electronic Supply. They're selling parts like crazy, so that's how kind of some of the ways we can count. It went really crazy, and I was so thrilled because a lot of people are building that have never built before. What's really cool is a lot of guys that got out of ham radio as they left their teenage years, got into college, had a family, had a career. They're coming back, but ham radio is not what it was in 1960 or whatever. So they enjoy this. So we went crazy. One of the things that this led to, and I want to, everybody get your pencils out. This Saturday, Leo Laporte, the head twit here at the network, has a show. If you don't know about this show, it's how so many of us learned so much about computers and everything else decades ago that he started on his screensavers and stuff like that up on C-band satellite. Well, next Saturday, his second hour of the Tech Guy. Just go to the network lineup next Saturday because he had me on as a guest. But it really wasn't about me. He wanted to talk about this. And so we were able to bring the word of ham radio and building to over 1 million listeners. He's on 160 radio stations on that Saturday, Sunday show. If you don't know about that, you need to do it. There it is, right there. The Tech Guy. It is really something. So next Saturday on that second hour, we're going to talk about ham radio to all these millions of people that sometimes think it went away. Well, it certainly didn't. For me, it's gotten crazy. It really did get crazy. Well, let me show you what the Pine Board has evolved into. It is now a 3-band band switching transmitter, 160 meters, the full coil, 75 meters, and 40 meters. And it band switches, and it switches the 3 crystals. I also added the antenna relay from Gene, W4IQN. He came up with a kind of a novel arrangement of that antenna relay. It shorts the receiver out in receive, so you don't put any RF in the receiver. It's pretty cool. In addition to that, there are a pair of contacts that we bring out here that you can mute your receiver. And we're going to have to get into some of that because everybody wants to build a receiver. I got to tell you, that is a huge project, even for those that have built for years. I suggest you go to a ham fest and spend $100 and buy a Hallicrafter's XX99 or Hallicrafter or S20 or a Hammerlin. There's a number of receivers I see all the time at these ham fest, and you need to do that. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, there are the muting contacts. So when you key this baby up, bingo. Well, we got it on. Let's switch it. Before I switch the camera, we're on 160 meters. I selected that with this guy, and we'll tune her up. And here we go. Hopefully you can see the light back in there. It's 160 meters, 5 watts. Now we're going to go to 75 meters, and we'll tune that little booger up 75 meters. Let's go over here. Hard me to do where it is. Passed it up. There's 75 meters. And then we'll go to 40 meters. And here comes 40 meters up here. Come on here. I knocked this off a while ago, George. Look what I did. I picked it up by that wire. Like, come on. So I got to resolder that. But anyway, there's 40 meters. So we got 40 meters. We've got 75 meters. And we got 160 meters. Is that cool or what? Let me show you some of the other things that happened here. Just a second. Excellent camera work here, right? Oh, golly. Let's go about right there. And we'll describe some of this good stuff. It took me a while to do this, I have to tell you. It really took a while to do this, but I've had some situations here in the last few months that I was able to be home and do it. There. The basic transmitter stayed exactly the same. In fact, this whole transmitter that originated in that QST article is only held onto the board by about 4 screws plus the 2 socket screws. I picked that whole thing up. I figured, oh, this is going to be a disaster. Oh, no. And, we're going to be in trouble. But I picked the whole thing up. I slid the bigger board. I went down to Lowe's and chopped me out a bigger board and slid it underneath there. And by golly, it worked. I put the old coil back. You know, the coil was only that big. Then that gave me room for this larger coil, the MFJ coil. Also room to put the antenna relay. And it just all worked together quite nicely. And this has been something in the back of my mind for a long time, and we did it. Now let me bring this back up because I'll show you how it all worked out. This is the diagram. You'll remember seeing this that Gene did. Nothing changed there, but what I wanted to show you is we got to pay attention to the crystal socket. You're gonna do another drawing on that soon. This isn't the next drawing I'm going to show you isn't inclusive, but here, pay attention right here. This cap, that cap comes off the plate, feeds the coil. Okay, got that? We keep that. And here's what we did. You'll see that cap at the top of the page here. Come on here. There's that cap right there. And that cap came off of the pin 6 of the 6AG7. All of that remained the same, as well as the antenna coil. The connector, I'm all right. But there we put the bigger coil and the taps. And it was 46 turns, 14 turns, and 27 turns is how we tapped it. And it works great. There's a diagram of it. And that's the band switching. And it's so simple. Just look how simple that is. You know, you think about, oh my gosh, a band switching transmitter. That's all there is to it. Look how simple that was. And if we didn't have a band switch, well, just think about it this way. If you just had a 40-meter transmitter, you'd only have that coil. Bingo. That's all you'd have. You have the same 365 puff. That worked the same. But you make the coil bigger, and we select it here and go to the antenna, make it bigger. Look how simple that is to have band switching in the final. It's just so cool. I've showed this several times. I'm really happy with this. This is quite neat. Gene did this, W4IQN, and it's a unique situation where the receiver is grounded on transmit. And so when that relay is activated, it grounds the receiver so you don't put RF into it. Kind of a neat deal. Just kind of a neat deal. And one other thing we did to it, and we'll have to talk about that later on in another show, perhaps, but I put an XLR connector, one of our XT1 transmitters. By the way, I have the power shut off, everybody. And the high impedance. So we have a high impedance input and a low impedance input. And that is easily done like this. Very simple. And it works great.